Here's my audience. Okay. Did you know that standardized tests like the ACT or SAT do not accurately predict how smart one is? Well, it's true. Today you will hear about the cons of these tests and alternate ways to demonstrate success in college. I am attending Ball State for a degree in education, and personally, I took the ACT twice and the SAT once. However, my younger brother, Tyler, a senior in high school, has taken the ACT now 4 times, and he has recently signed up for another time. He needs a 24 and currently only has a 23. Countless hours and money spent, all to improve for 1 score. Colleges accept students based largely on their SAT and or their ACT score. However, these scores do not accurately reflect the capability of students because of many factors which I will talk about today. Today I will touch on how the ACT is not accurate and how it is biased, how SAT prep courses only reflect how much your family income is, how the grading of the essay portion of the SAT is done, and alternative routes to getting accepted into college. According to fairtest.org, the ACT does not accurately predict how well a student will do in college. In fact, the company that makes the ACT has even said that high school grades will reflect more strongly in how one will do in college compared to the ACT score they receive. A study done at Chicago University proved this. There was a graduating class of 1992 at Chicago State University, and it had the highest ACT scores compared to other classes. Yet, over the course of the 4 years, they performed academically worse. There is also a large margin of error on the ACT test. The margin of error, according to the ACT, is about 1.5 to 3. While this seems like a small number, it's really big when there's thousands of students competing for one spot at a college. This means that if a student were to retake the ACT, their score could dramatically change each time. According to the Times, ACT and SAT type standardized tests are also very biased. Civil rights groups in New York have made it known that Black and Latino students constantly score less on standardized tests compared to whites and Asians. And according to fairtest.org, standardized tests have words and phrases that may not be familiar with if you are not white or your first language isn't English, which is a lot of people taking the tests. According to the Times, standardized tests also lean towards the wealthy. Standardized tests like the ACT and SAT have practice tests in tutoring sessions, which is why they lean towards the wealthy. And according to fairtest.org, the ACT itself sells coaching items. This just proves the ACT is not based on how smart one is, but is based on how well you can take a test. A study conducted by the Annie E. Casey Foundation found that the gap between scores between the poor and wealthy have grown 60% in the last 50 years. There is also an unfair gap between the score of females and males. Males consistently score higher on standardized tests, yet females score higher grades in the classroom. This is because males are predicted to do better at fast-paced, multiple-choice tests. This is because males partake in more risky behavior, like guessing, which is rewarded on the standardized tests. And here is a chart showing the income level per family, which is what I talked about, and the scores. So there's a positive correlation between making more money and scoring higher on the ACT test. Now, the grading of the essay portion of the SAT is very crazy. It obviously cannot be accurate testament to a student's education because the graders are they only have to grade 30 essays in 1 hour. So that's 2 minutes per essay. This means that they don't even read the essays. According to the SAT Association, all they do is look for big words, or they don't even care if it's factually correct. For example, it was stated in the article by Slate.com that, say, one student put the civil rights movement was in, for example, 2002. They wouldn't care. They wouldn't even count against your grade as long as you would just made up an essay in the amount of time that they gave you. So the point of the essay is to make up information on command, which is something very unrealistic in the real world. Now, there are alternative ways to predict a student's future success in college besides the ACT and SAT. The Dean of Admissions for the Bates College said, "The evidence of the study clearly shows that high school GPA matters. 4-year, long-term evidence of self-discipline, intellectual curiosity, and hard work. That's what matters most, according to PBS Online. So even an administrator at a college even said that grades matter more than the SAT or ACT. This leads us into, so far, there are 850 colleges that do not require the SAT or the ACT scores to apply. These colleges look at class rank, GPA, and the rigor of classes to make an overall fair assessment, according to fairtest.org. As you can see, standardized tests such as the ACT and SAT do not accurately represent the future success of students. Today I touched on how the ACT cannot predict the future success of students, how standardized tests are very biased, leaning toward white male students, which is only a small proportion of the students that are there, how the essay portion of the SAT is unfairly graded, and finally, I talked about alternative measures to foreseeing the success of a student in college. While there are supporters of standardized tests, there is plenty of evidence that proves it is an unfair assessment of students' educational achievements. There is too much pressure put on these tests that favor a single group of students. It is time to look at more accurate ways to measure student success in college. Okay.